If you're walking through your Toronto neighborhood right now and feeling a bit of a pit in your stomach, seeing those for sale signs sit for 2 or 3 months, you're not alone. We've watched this market climb for a decade, peaking in those wild 2022 highs. And now you're hearing that the benchmark prices are down. You hear words like correction or crash, and it's uncomfortable. But if you've owned your Toronto home for over 10 years, this isn't about catching the top anymore. It's about not making a massive mistake. Today, I'm going to show you why most Toronto sellers are losing money, not because of the market, but because of the strategy that doesn't exist anymore. The most common thing I hear right now is, if I sell today, I'm leaving $150,000 on the table compared to a few years ago. And frankly, that is a fair concern. When you see the average detached in the city at 1.54 million, down from when it was at the peak of spring 22 at around 1.9 million, it changes how you feel about your equity. You start thinking, maybe we just wait. Let's see if things get better. But here's what most people are overlooking. When the Toronto market corrects, it doesn't just affect the home you're selling. It affects the one you're buying too. Before you decide the safest move is to do nothing, we need to look at both sides of the equation. Let's look at the actual math. Right now, the sales to active listings ratio for detached houses in Toronto is sitting around 17%, which means for every 100 homes listed last month, only 17 of them actually sold. That means 83 out of the 100 are sitting on the market. Now, in the condo segment, it's even worse at 13%. We've seen condo sales slide year over year, hitting levels we haven't seen in decades. If you're selling a condo in City Place or Entertainment District, you aren't just competing with the unit next door. You're competing with a record high 4,300 units for sale in the city of Toronto. Buyers aren't rushed anymore. They don't feel the need to remove conditions blindly or offer over asking just to get in. They have options. They can compare, they can wait for the next price reduction, and most importantly, they can negotiate. If your home is even slightly off on price or presentation, it's going to sit. And that leads to the biggest trap in our current market. The official stats say Toronto properties are taking 67 days to sell on average right now. But as someone in the trenches every day, I can tell you that number is actually higher. What's actually happening is sellers list above market price, it sits for 60 days with no traction, they pull it off the market, and then they relist it 2 or 3 days later as a new listing to reset the clock. Some properties get relisted with a new agent, resetting the property days on market. When I look at a property for sale, I look at the full history. There are properties that get listed, taken off the market for a period of time, then get relisted again. The system might say 5 days on market, but the reality is that house has been stale for 3 or 4 months. Buyers aren't fooled. They're watching the online apps daily. When they see a listing linger or drop price multiple times, the perception shifts from premium home to a problem home. You lose your leverage not because the market is bad, but because you reacted to where the market was instead of where it actually is. Now, here's the part that should make you breathe a little easier. Most of you aren't selling your home to rent an apartment. You're selling to buy something else, maybe a bigger home. Let's do some Toronto math. If your current home would have sold for 1.4 million at the peak, but today it's worth 1.28, that feels like a $120,000 hit. It hurts, I get it. But if the $1.8 million home you've been eyeing has also corrected by the same percentage, it's now sitting at 1.65 million, you actually come out ahead. You're buying and selling in the same market. The adjustment on the more expensive home is actually larger in dollar terms. You lost 120 on your sale, but you saved 150,000 on your purchase, which actually puts you ahead $30,000 in this case. Now, when you look at both sides of buying and selling, the fear starts to soften into clarity. If we zoom out, the long-term data for Toronto is still incredible. Even with this recalibration over the last couple of years, home values have nearly doubled over the last 10 years. This isn't a collapse of value. It's return to sanity and normality after an overheated stretch. So what are your actionable items moving forward? Price for the next 30 days, not the last 2 years. Don't look at what your neighbors got 3 months ago. Look at what did not sell in the last month. The 8 out of 10 rule. You have to be in the top 20% of listings for presentation and price to be considered by today's cautious buyers. Audit your motivation. If you have 50% equity and a stable income, don't let the noise stop you from making a move that improves your lifestyle. Regret usually comes from misunderstanding the risk, not from acknowledging it. The longer the property sits, you will be chasing the market down, and the lower the final price will be. Stage like your sale depends on it. Because in a buyer's market with lots of competition, having buyers walk in and connect emotionally with the home could be the difference in being one of those 17 houses out of 100 sold. Don't leave anything to chance. Selling in a market like this just requires more care. It's not a bad time. It's just a market with no room for error. If you structure the move properly, it will work out just fine. If you wing it, that's when regret creeps in. If you want to see how these numbers apply specifically to your neighborhood, click on the link in my description to book a quick 15-minute strategy call. We'll take a look at your specific situation. And if you're wondering why a house is not selling, take a look at this video here where I discuss the 10 reasons why buyers aren't putting offers on a house for sale. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.